Unified School District Board of Education, and we will stand and have the pledge led by our Vice President, Clerk, Mr. Rockwell. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I just have to share with you how much encouragement and excitement you get when you hear that coming back at you with all those young voices. Not that you older folks aren't great and everything, but not older than me, but older than them. Okay, we will now observe a moment of silence. Thank you. I do want to announce that you were greeted at the door today by the Gateway Elementary School students, and we want to thank them for being here this evening and sharing with you their bright and shining faces. Thank you. So I do want to welcome everyone here tonight and thank you for joining us. Our goal is to create a conversational space for the board to hear and interact with staff on action items and to hear from our community. Therefore, we ask during the public speaking time that you please come up to the center microphone, and you're welcome to either sit or stand, your choice. And we look forward to having a conversation with you, and we believe that we have all the best interests of our students, staff, and community in mind, and we want to make decisions as a district with that as our priority. We move to item number 1, adoption of the agenda. Are there any changes? Then we will move to the approval of the minutes. If there are no changes, they will stand approved as presented, and we move into programs and presentations. Item number 1, district reorganization process update. Dr. Savko.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Good evening, President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Moore, staff and community.
There we go.
Okay. It's my pleasure this evening to give the board, staff, and community an update on our various district reorganization committees and work this evening. Let's start with a little bit of background information. So if you recall, in the fall of 2023, a district reorganization timeline was developed based on the 2025 planned closure of James Monroe Middle School. From October 2023 through January 2024, a Facilities and Programs Advisory Committee was convened, and that diverse group of individuals met to determine the most viable configurations for district reorganization. In January through April 2024, the board provided direction as follows: 7th and 8th grades to be 1 junior high, elementary sites to include a TK 6th grade span, a magnet focus at Pierce in VAPA, and VUIG focus in STEM in 25-26, and also an independent study school with a middle college pathway. In June 2024, to prepare for the extensive district reorganization, a district reorganization leadership team was convened to identify essential work, other advisory teams, and timelines. And so these are the current working advisory groups: Schools of Choice, which include magnets and middle college independent study; the Reimagining Junior High team, the naming committee, which could include the junior high, magnets, and middle college independent study school, a boundary advisory, STEM advisory, VAPA advisory, sixth grade because it's returning back to the elementary span, and then finally a middle college planning group. Tonight's focus is going to really be about the junior high reorg, or reimagining rather. So in the summer, in July, a district team participated in the USC Breakthrough Leadership Institute to develop a clear problem of practice, a key message in addressing our problem of practice, a theory of action, an action plan, and a timeline. And that group worked together for several days with some renowned facilitators, and our key message was crafted as a team: innovation through unification. These are the members of our District Breakthrough Leadership Institute team, representing both middle schools and district leadership. At the Leadership Institute, we engaged in an evolution of thinking. When we first defined the problem in the fall of 2023, we were thinking through the lens of closing a middle school, which evolved into the middle school merge, or merging two middle schools. We thought that was more pleasant. However, we came to the conclusion that we were going to see this challenge as an opportunity, and it was our opportunity to fully reimagine junior high. During that initial reimagining stage, we deepened our understanding of the significance and importance of school culture, leading with student voice, community agency in this process, collaborative learning environment, confidence building, and reassuring families, students, and staff about our plan and timeline for the reimagination. One of the most important things to our team was leading with student voice. So student voice has led recently with defining core values, school vision, and school mission, which will then be taken to staff tomorrow and October 23rd through professional development days, and then eventually to school community. So I'd like to share with you what that student voice looks like as we engaged in focus groups, again around defining core values, school vision, and school mission.
The purpose of this morning's Reimagining Junior High focus group at Monroe was to get students' input on what they see for the future of the new junior high.
And the purpose of starting with students is that this is where they're going to be. This is their school. We want them to have ownership. We want them to walk on campus and feel like, I created this.
We're going to be working on 3 things for our new Reimagine Junior High, and that is the vision statement, which is going to describe the aims. When we look towards that future school, what do we want it to look like? If we're designing a perfect school, what is our dream vision? That's what we're going to be working on. Then we're going to move towards a mission statement. That's the goals we're going to have to get us to that dream. What steps are we going to have to take to get us there? And then we're going to look at the core values.
We want to take a minute to list the things that we feel are important, and they are driving that conversation. They're using that activity to create these information blocks so we can take that forward to take the next steps to having a new junior high and leaving middle school.
At the student forum meeting, we talked a lot about reimagining the new junior high, and I think it's very helpful because they got a lot of student input. I think this is a great first step to creating our new junior high.
There are many other groups working fast and furiously and collaboratively but we thought we'd highlight this amazing group of students and adults working to reimagine junior high for our community. So we will continue to meet our various advisory teams from advisory to action. So that's going to occur September through November to inform our key actions, our communications, and timeline to do 4 very significant things: reimagine our school structures and culture at various campuses, innovate our programs and our student support mechanisms, and to disrupt our perspective from something that might be deficit to something that's an opportunity. So again, seeing challenges as opportunities. And finally, and probably most significant, is to advocate for all of our educational partners as we reorganize our district.
Thank you. This is a report. Any questions on the report from any board members? Thank you so much. It looks like a lot of work, but a lot of positive approach and inclusive. So thank you for sharing that with us.
My pleasure.
That brings us to item 2, supplemental materials approval process. This is also
So it's my pleasure this evening to report to the board what is our instructional materials adoption process, which is inclusive of core adoptions and also supplemental adoptions. So we're going to be talking about what the state's role is in that endeavor, and then the board's role, and then our local community's role. So let's start with what is the definition of instructional materials, because some folks might envision, oh, that must mean just the textbooks. But we're in the 21st century, so instructional materials can be anything that's designed for students and teachers as a learning resource. So you might think of our electronic materials, our novels, and additional texts that support the core adoption. So those can be non-printed or, again, printed and then electronic. Instructional materials begin at a state level and what we call standards. And so you have standards for each content area, and that's determined, again, at the state level. And that would be what we call in the industry the what of instruction. So what is it that the students need to master and show mastery of through assessments? The next critical piece at the state level is the development of frameworks. And so anytime you have the ELA standards or math standards or science or history or even visual and performing arts, you'll have a framework that goes with that. And so it's not just enough to know what the students need to know or master, but how they do so and at what depth of knowledge level. Because understanding addition and subtraction at a first grade level is far more rigorous at an algebra level, if you will. And then finally, based on those standards and frameworks, instructional materials are submitted to the state for state adoption. And that's the process at the state level. So again, content standards, frameworks, and instructional materials form a connected system or like an ecosystem to support our student learning. So the State Board of Education's role is to adopt those standards, set expectations, decide when those new standards should be adopted or reviewed, and then develop a specific funding process and timeline to engage in that work. Very similar is the framework adoption process. So again, the frameworks provide that firm foundation of scope and sequence and the types of knowledge and skills students need to master in each subject area. And the framework also offers guidance to stakeholders for implementing those standards. And then lastly, at the state level, the IQC will put out a bulletin for publishers to submit their instructional materials, typically textbooks. And then the IQC has an extensive process of evaluating those instructional materials. They eventually give that to the State Board of Education to adopt or approve or disapprove. And at the local level, then when we engage in our adoption process, we use the adopted materials list. And at the local level, finally we're here, governing boards are responsible for adopting instructional materials that best meet the needs of students and their local communities. All right, what does that look like at a local level? So in the state of California, local adoption processes are articulated through Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 6161.1, which is the selection and evaluation of instructional materials. What this policy articulates is that it must involve teachers and other educators at the primary level and reviewers which materials which would be most helpful in our classroom and our local context. And it's important to note that in that policy, parents and community members are also involved in the review process. So our California Education Code requires that boards provide for substantial teacher involvement in the selection of instructional materials and also promote the involvement of parents and other members in the community. In addition, at all times, parents, guardians have the right to examine curriculum materials that have been chosen and are being used in the classroom. So if a parent or guardian or community member wanted to do so, they could check in at the school office and request that, or it's most convenient for our community members to make an appointment at the textbook depository and then have the opportunity to have our textbook technician to review the materials with them. So what does that look like in our community, in our district? Usually that work is held by Education Services and the Assistant Superintendent, that would be me, right? And so when it's time to have an adoption, whether it's core or supplemental, we convene all of the teachers that are relevant to that adoption. So for example, when we had our English Language Arts adoption, we got all kindergarten teachers together to review the state adopted materials, use an evaluation tool to then recommend the final recommendation, if you will. We don't have to do this, but this has been a tradition and a valuable process. It's kind of like checks and balances for our community. So we convene what is called a District Instructional Materials Review Committee, which has content teachers, administrators, and parents and guardians to review the process that we engaged in with the teachers to come to that recommendation. There's a discussion, and that committee has the, I wouldn't say authority, but has the influence to say, are we sure about this? They verify that we followed our process, and then we take recommendations to the board after a few other public steps. So each time we have an adoption, again, whether it's core or whether it's supplemental, we have a public review. So that's generally 30 days prior to a regular board meeting, and it's held through a public hearing. We advertise that we're going to have this hearing through Facebook, district webpage, through the newspapers, whatever means of communication that we have to alert the public that we're going to have this public review. Then that public hearing is held at a regular board meeting, and the recommendations are presented to the board for consideration and approval. And those will have the publisher, the year of publication, the program name, and then costs associated with that. So if you might recall, we do broad adoptions, but we also might have adoptions for specific courses. And again, in terms of having the public or our parents, guardians honored in the process, they do have the right to examine the curriculum really at any time. All right, what about supplemental materials? So in 2018, as part of our policy review process, we had some parents approach the board at regular board meetings to express some concern about students being exposed to supplemental materials that were likely not approved. It was in good faith, but still not appropriate. Like, for example, if I'm a substitute teacher and I don't know the policy and I want to show, you know, an excerpt on YouTube, I don't realize that there's a process there, and unfortunately some missteps can be made. So The board directed me or Education Services to look into our board policy and administrative regulation 6161.11. And we realized that the state doesn't have an administrative regulation. So we chose, as a board and community, to research that and to adopt an administrative regulation that was inclusive of our community values and needs. One of the most common supplemental materials would be novels. So novels are also board adopted. So for example, the freshman English courses, English 1B, 2B, the core adoption is Prentice Hall, Literature, Timeless Voices, Timeless Themes at the gold level. And then the supplemental novel or literary selections are that teachers can choose from are Fahrenheit 451, Of Mice and Men, The Pearl, Romeo and Juliet, Animal Farm, and The Absolutely True Story of a Part-Time Indian. Since this is a high school example, what we do is we include the novels that are selected in the course description guide, which is posted on the borough's website, and then each course syllabus will indicate the core adoption and any novel selection. And again, the teachers are able to select the novels or literary works from that list because you're not teaching all of the novels in 1B and 2B. So what does our policy say about supplemental instructional materials? It is that the governing board does encourage the use of supplementary instructional materials to enrich curriculum and enhance student learning. And of course, going back to the standards and our district goals, those materials shall be aligned with district goals, curriculum objectives, and academic standards, and then should supplement and not supplant or take the place of the core adoptions. Another aspect of our administrative regulation 6161.11 is that we have some exhibits in that administrative regulation which provides, let's say I'm a teacher and I want to supplement a history lesson with an excerpt from a historical movie, right? I would look at this policy. It's posted on our intranet, and the administrators go over this process with their staff. I would look at that policy. I would then submit a permission slip or an approval form to my administrator, which demonstrates that I've met this criteria and the age limits on that excerpt, if you will. And then if it's approved, then what will happen is a permission slip will go home to parents, and they can either approve or deny that. And if the parents deny, then what happens is we have an alternative assignment for the student. And that is our local and state level adoption process.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions from board members? Robert?
Yeah, so what happens if a parent or a teacher doesn't agree with the curriculum in a certain book and they get feedback from parents that they don't like that? I noticed you said at the end they can have a different assignment or so forth, but is there a process that we go through that we have to go through if there's books that are a book that maybe parents don't like, or there's material in the book that they don't think is appropriate?
That's a great question. So I'll start with the first part of the question, which is, what if I'm a teacher and I have that novel selection and I have the autonomy to select the novel? And so that would be the first place a teacher can choose not to teach something that they may not agree with or it doesn't align to their comfort level. So they have that autonomy. And then let's say now we're teaching the novel. It's not the novel that the teacher didn't want to teach, but the parent brings up a concern. So when the parent does that, then the student doesn't have to engage in that novel study. It'll be an alternative novel study and alternative assignments that meet those curricular objectives in a literary text. And then at a local level, let's say parents were to bring the concern to the board. This is what I would recommend. The board acts through your or their policy. So what I would recommend is, if there's a concern, perhaps you should start at the administrative regulation or board policy level, because that guides all of our work. It's your job to approve or direct policy, and it's our job to implement it. So my recommendation would be, if that were to be considered, I'd take it back to the Policy Review Committee and have some discussions there.
Thank you.
Any other questions by board members? Any questions from members of the public or staff? Thank you so much for the presentation.
Thank you, you're not getting rid of me yet. All right, here we go. Oh, maybe you are. I'm gonna go sit down.
We move to the public hearing, which is a public hearing on sufficient textbooks and instructional materials.
Okay. Do we do reports and communication first? No? Okay. All right. So Education Code 60119 requires local education agency to conduct a public hearing on or before the end of the 8th week of school and make a determination through a resolution as to whether each pupil in each school in the district has sufficient textbooks or instructional materials, or both, in each subject that is consistent with the content and cycles of the curriculum framework adoption by the state board. District and site personnel have determined that sufficient textbooks or instructional materials, or both, have been provided and will continue to be provided in accordance with Education Code Section 60119. All students have standards-based aligned textbooks and instructional materials in history, social science, math, science, and English language arts for the 24-25 school year. Additionally, sufficient textbooks and or instructional materials were provided to each pupil enrolled in world language and health classes. Lab science equipment was available for science lab classes offered in grades 9 through 12. It's recommended that the board conduct a public hearing regarding sufficient textbooks and instructional materials.
So the board will open that public hearing at 6:29. Anyone wish to address? Seeing no one approach, we will close it at 6:29 and a half. And now we move into reports and communications. Number one, student members' reports will be presented by Mr. Rockwell.
All right, good to be the young guy again. Murray Middle School is underway with our fall events, student activities, and connecting with our parents and our Murray community. We welcome back our families with our first PTO meeting of the year with great attendance and having parents connect to school-wide events this year. The Beetlejuice 2 movie was a huge success, being sold out and with a great crowd of students, staff, and parents. As we head into the fall, we have our first school dance on the 27th of September, with the theme being the Wild Wild West at Murray from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. We are grateful for our parent volunteers that are leading the way. 6th and 7th and 8th volleyball teams are underway with our first game of the season being at home at Trona. And this week we are playing Mojave away and the South Fork at Murray. Go Mustangs. We have a full schedule and look forward to playing teams far and wide with tons of school spirit. Our student forum met and developed our new focus group on how we approach reimagining junior high. Our students completed surveys to give feedback and input on the path ahead. Murray parents are also involved to share their insight on the survey and connect to involve their voice. As we head into the end of September, over 90 students will be attending Cerro Coso Community College to hear Mr. Michael Lopez Alegria speak about his 40 years of aviation and space experience. By exposing our future leaders to the boundless opportunity of space exploration, We are excited to listen, learn, and spend an afternoon with such a world-famous astronaut on September 27th. Monroe Middle School. The school year is well underway at James Monroe Middle School, and the energy is high. Teachers and students are busy diving into the curriculum, clubs are meeting, and their activity is visible around campus in the form of posters and more. Cheer tryouts were held and practice started this month. Volleyball had their first game this week. ASB is gearing up for the first dance of the school year, which will be next Friday. PTSO and School Site Council held their first meetings this month. PTSO wasted no time showing their support of James Monroe with a well-received coffee bar in the staff lounge. A significant event that occurred this month was the first student-driven step towards the reimagined junior high school. Teacher-nominated 6th and 7th graders met as a focus group to provide input on the mission, vision, values, and traditions for the new junior high school. The conversation portion of our reorganization plan commenced. For Mesquite Continuation High School. While the field trip to Fort Irwin was delayed, students have already had several post-graduation activities this year. They had a practice and full ASVAB test. Our local Army recruiter did a job and financial presentation for students to help them understand options available to them after they graduate high school. The next several weeks, students are slated to do several trips, including one to hear renowned astronaut Michael Lopez Alegria speak as the capstone to the Jumpstart program. There will also be a STEM Expo at Mojave Air and Spaceport and a career day at Cerro Coso Community College. Students have been engaging in school spirit activities like School Spirit Colors and a welcome back event with a treat of popsicles to celebrate their completion of the first credit check cycle. Last week, a group of students participated in the Parade of 1,000 Flags where they marched with Mrs. Lusher. In addition, they wore red, white, and blue on 9/11 to show their support of our great nation and its heroes. This week, students will review their last credit check and start the final cycle before the quarter ends on the 4th. We already have several graduates projected to move on in the coming weeks and start their next adventures. So go Dragons, show them how to soar. And finally, Burroughs High School. September has already been an eventful month for the Burroughs. Here are some of the highlights of our month. Our fall sports are now mid-season and playing hard. Our volleyball teams have been dominating in their games, with all having fantastic winning records so far. Tennis has been playing well and winning matches, only losing one. For cross country, the varsity boys are ranked 3rd in the state in their division, and both boys and girls have been doing well. While football has struggled a bit, our boys are still playing hard and giving it their all. We held our mini pep rally on August 23rd to kick off our football season against Tehachapi and celebrate our seniors involved in sports. Speaking of rallies, last week ASB hosted their fall rally with the theme of the week being Endless Summer. It feels like endless summer out there a lot. Our spirit days were sunrise versus sunset, American Pride, barbecue dad versus soccer mom, and endless summer to round off the week. Our seniors got information about the Bee Mountain painting on the 28th and cap and gowns for graduation from Jostens. Today we had our annual club day, which allowed our student clubs to advertise and get more members. Homecoming is rapidly approaching, and ASB is working hard to make the Amazing Race, Powder Puff, and Homecoming floats great. Our Homecoming Top 10 was announced 2 weeks ago, and we announced our top 3 at the Fall Rally. Congratulations to Lauren Calderon, Julia Hechanova, and Unique Pacheco for making it. The first band competition of the year is on the 28th. Rehearsals for the fall play, The Outsiders, is currently underway. And that's my student members report.
Thank you, Mr. Rockwell. If you need to go home and do homework, we'll let you go ahead and do that.
thank you.
If not,
See
do
ya.
you want to
Bye-bye.
stay for the rest of the meeting? That opens it up to reports from members of the board. Any members of the board like to make a remark? One? Robert?
I just want to thank Burroughs High School's volleyball team is playing some incredible volleyball this year, and really proud of that group and all the groups at Burroughs. And today I got to watch Monroe and St. Anne's play some volleyball, and that was very entertaining, and watching the kids just have fun and play sports. So great job to all our activities.
Thank you. That brings us to the superintendent's report. Dr. Moore.
Thank you. As our schools told us, there's a lot going on. As of last Friday, we have 4,995 students, so just shy of 5,000. And schools are actively contacting families to ensure their students are attending school each day and doing a lot of fun things to keep students engaged when they are at school. We recently shifted some students' schools based on capacity of classes. This is always a very difficult time for students, families, and teachers to make a change once the school year starts. And we appreciate the patience and flexibility of everyone involved and are looking to review and potentially adjust school boundaries moving forward to accommodate some of the shifting population in our community and maximize our facilities. Since the last board meeting, our school teams participated in the Parade of 1,000 Flags across the community to commemorate the events of September 11th. And I had the opportunity to recently attend the Dual Enrollment Summit statewide and serve as a panelist with Dr. Sean Hancock, president of Saracoso College. We shared about the dual enrollment program at Burroughs and our developing middle college high school program that is launching in the fall. District team has joined a statewide community of practice hosted by Scaling Student Success to learn and share best practices as we implement our Portrait of a Graduate. And we've welcomed new administrators and administrators to new roles on our team. And here tonight we have Mrs. Dulce Baca as principal of Pierce Elementary School and Mr. Dave Andreessen as co-principal at Murray Middle School. We're intrigued by the concept of collaborative leadership and believe that a dual principal role is appropriate at this phase of the school. Earlier tonight, we had an update on the Reimagining Junior High School process, and there's much work ahead for this team, and having two co-leaders on campus will provide support and diversification of leadership for the work ahead. Today, we held our first Superintendent's Council and PTO Council meetings of the year, and our parent leaders continue to inspire me as they embrace the concept that it takes all of us to effectively educate and raise the youth in our community. So just want to say thank you to our parent leaders. I'm also encouraged by the progress of our negotiations teams as we work with our labor partners. The recent proposals with CSEA and district teams are showing significant progress in addressing the structural issues that have been identified and shared at board meetings for some of our positions that earn the lowest wages. Negotiations updates will be posted periodically on the district website for transparency. As we move towards a national, state, and local election day on November 5th, the district is participating in messaging voter information and information sharing related to our local Measure AA, Sierra Sands Unified School District's repairs and safety measure that will be on the ballot. Measure AA was designed to address the community's educational priorities, such as ensuring school safety, ensuring all schools are prepared for earthquakes, fixing or replacing leaky roofs, doors, windows, and sewers, qualifying for the Federal Department of Defense grant to cover 80% of the cost of building a new elementary school, replacing the deteriorating plumbing, electrical, heating, and cooling systems, and expanding facilities to support programs in reading and literacy for our youngest learners. I am looking forward to October 10th, where we will attend the Kern Community College District Board meeting held at Saracoso College to introduce our shared middle college program and memorandum of understanding. And we will then bring that MOU to our board meeting the following week on October 17th for consideration. And as was mentioned by a couple of our schools, having almost 400 students attend the lecture later this month with astronaut Michael Lopez Alegria in partnership with the Saracoso Community College Foundation that is hosting his lecture on September 27th, followed by the community star party that evening. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. That brings us to the report to the Board of Trustees by the Desert Area Teachers Association. Ms. Poole.
Good evening, board members, President Ferris, you all. Sorry, I'm a little bit thrown off. I got here kind of late because I had rehearsal till 5:30, and then I went home and changed into my cool new T-shirt, and then by the time I got here, I had to sit on that side, and I'm really uncomfortable. Feels very strange.
Disoriented.
Yes, and I don't like change, so lucky I work in this district because none is coming. Really excited about that. So things are grand. I've been making my site visits, and it's been really great getting to hear from the members of data and being able to talk to principals and take care of things before they become any kind of issue, which is always our goal. So that's really great. And then the bond, very excited about the bond. Data will be hosting a bond event. I don't know if I'm allowed to say all this, next week. So just to get like a teacher's perspective. So we're very positive and hopeful and recognize how important it is to get not just the money, but we got all that other money, right, from the people in the government. So that is my report. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That brings us to report the Board of Trustees of the California School Employees Association. Ms. Payanis.
Hello, Board President, members, Superintendent Dr. Moore, and staff and community. We held our monthly meeting, and as usual, our biggest topic was our pay. During our meeting, we discussed the negotiations that have been held and let the membership know we are heading back to the table on the 25th, hoping we can come to an agreement that benefits all of our classifications with pay. We've had a lot of jobs up for hiring already this school year, roughly 40 jobs opening since August 2nd. That is huge. The classified staff has such a huge turnover rate. Pay is one of the biggest issues. Next issue would be the workload for what they are paid. A lot of our classified staff get treated poorly on a regular basis, yet show up to work and get paid less than a Panda Express worker. Speaking of Panda, I have some fortune cookies for you guys. Why is it the district spend so much money on contracting out instead of putting money back into the employees we do have? Hoping we can continue to make improvement on our pay scale, or we will continue to lose these hardworking, dedicated, and valuable employees. Thank you.
Did you hand select the fortunes in those for us? Okay.
Hoping you guys get good ones.
Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to item 6, communications from the public. The board will provide time during the discussion of each agenda item for members of the public to comment. But at this time, members of the public may address the board on items that are not on the agenda. Comments should relate to items of public interest within the board's jurisdiction. The law prohibits the board from taking action on items that are not on the agenda, but if appropriate, your comments will be referred to staff for response. When addressing the board, please state your name and limit your remarks to 3 minutes. In accordance with the board bylaws, the board will limit the total time for public input to 30 minutes. Those wishing to address the board beyond that 30-minute time limit may do so at the end of the scheduled meeting agenda. So I now open public comment. Please step up to the center microphone.
Good evening. My name is Christine Howard, and I am a retired public school educator, 45 years in the classroom. I've served in 4 separate districts throughout the state of California. My comments will not be positive. I apologize for that in advance. First of all, every single SSUSD school has been refurbished or remodeled since 2006. Second, the term "fix our schools" for the bond issue, I firmly believe is questionable and misleading. Next, I would really like for us to adjudicate a balanced budget with creative measures to petition the state and federal government in the area of redesignation of funding. This is the bane of every school district's budget. You are limited exactly what you can spend line item monies for. However, 7 school districts in California and over 50 in the United States have petitioned and been granted successful realignment of funding. I think this is something we should look into. Furthermore, I realize this is behind the 8 ball. However, TOSAs should have been reassigned to the classroom before hiring outside of the United States and incurring additional expenditures. My last point is very simple. There's a huge disconnect between SSUSD governance and Ridgecrest citizenry. A third school bond on our tax bill will do nothing but further divide that opinion. The Kern County Assessor's Office states that these bonds listed on here today do not mature until 2031. The average bill is $155 a year per property owner. It is going to be an additional burden for people that are struggling to make ends meet if you add another bond. And in agreement with the classified president, there are many of our valuable employees who have had to secure second jobs to secure a living wage. I think that is disgraceful in our situation when we could do more to facilitate understanding and promote dignity with all of our staff. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening, school board members, Superintendent Moore, and everybody. I'm Donna Hawker. I'm a parent of a student at Burroughs High School who is on the tennis team and did great today, so yay tennis. And I work for the Association of Realtors office who just recently endorsed Measure AA. I just want to encourage our community to please vote yes for Measure AA. As we all know, good schools are part of what makes our community a desirable place to live. Measure AA will help maintain our high-quality public schools, attract and retain a skilled workforce, maintain property values, and contribute to a strong local economy. As we all know and have seen, some of our school facilities are over 70 years old. They are aging and in urgent need of repairs. Specifically, I watched the video with the Inyokern schools and was shocked. Measure AA provides funding to address essential repair and upgrade needs for old school roofs, windows, bathrooms, plumbing, wiring, heating, and cooling systems to provide a safe and healthy learning environment for all students. Measure AA will allow the district to qualify for local schools for over $100 million in funding from the Department of Defense, enabling us to build a new elementary school with these funds in the most fiscally responsible manner. We are so fortunate here. Not too many communities have the opportunity to have with this type of help and funding from the Department of Defense. So please, please consider voting yes on Measure AA. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others like to address the board this evening? Thank you so much. If not, we will move on to Educational Administration. Adoption of Resolution 052425, Statement of Assurance of Sufficient Textbooks and Instructional Materials and Certification pupils are provided the standard alignment textbooks and instructional materials.
Good evening. In addition to the public hearing for the sufficient textbooks and instructional materials, a resolution is required. So it is recommended the board adopt Resolution 052425, certifying that each pupil in each school in the district has sufficient textbooks or instructional materials and is in compliance with Education Code 60119 regarding standards aligned textbooks.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Any questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Thank you. Brings us to Personnel Administration, item number 1, adoption of resolution number 08-2425, Week of the School Administrator. Mr. Ault.
President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Moore, staff, and community. The California Department of Education encourages districts to recognize the second full week in the month of October as Week of the School Administrator. Schools, school districts, and county superintendents of schools are encouraged to observe the week with public recognition of the contribution that school administrators make to successful pupil achievement. Resolution number 8/2425 declares the week of October 13th through October 19th, 2024 as the week of the school administrator in the Sierra Sands Unified School District. The resolution also declares that in Sierra Sands, certificated and classified administrators provide support to our schools, programs, and students in many ways. They develop and implement curriculum. Site administrative teams ensure that effective and innovative classroom instruction is promoted on a daily basis. Certificating classified administrators manage departments and site budgets, maintain school and district facilities, and district administrators provide student transportation, child nutrition programs to our students and their families, as well as guidance and staff development that improves teacher effectiveness in the classroom. The board's adoption of resolution number 8/2425 as Week of the School Administrator will allow the district to formally recognize the outstanding dedication and professionalism of its administrative staff, both certificated and classified. A copy of the resolution will be displayed at all district schools and sites. It is recommended that the board adopt resolution number 8/2425 as presented.
Move recommended action.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments, board members? Any questions or comments from members of the public or staff? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to item 2, waiver request enabling the district to assign individuals in certificated positions without appropriate credentials.
Move recommended action.
Been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments from board members? Any questions or comments from members of the public or staff? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to general administration. Item number 1, nominations for CSBA directors at large for Asian Pacific Islander and Hispanic to the California School Boards Association Board of Directors.
I think Kim has a clarification on this one.
Okay. Okay. So we've got a typo in there, and the 2 that are actually up are the Hispanic and the Asian Pacific Islander. So 2 different directors at large.
Great, and we may nominate or not take action, so it's open for discussion and possible action.
So unless someone has already spoken to someone who might be willing to serve in this capacity, we have no one to nominate. Okay. Then we will move on to item 2, gifts to the district. Mr. Rockwell.
The following gift was received. Walmart made a donation of school supplies with a total dollar value of $998 to be used by students at Fowler Elementary. Donations provide support to the district and have a positive financial impact. I move that we accept the gifts as described and send an appropriate letter of appreciation.
So there's been a motion. I need a second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? Questions or comments from members of the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to construction administration, adoption of resolution number 7/2425, finding the Murray Middle School Improvement Project exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act and approving the filing of recordation of a notice of exemption. Mr. Moore.
Thank you, President Ferris.
Check. Use the middle one.
Check.
There you go.
Thank you, President Ferris, members of the board, Superintendent Dr. Moore, faculty, staff, and community. Construction Administration, item 10.1, adoption of the resolution so mentioned. In 2019 and 2022, the district had the facilities in our school district assessed. They were given a facility condition index. The higher the FCI, the worse it was. Monroe Middle School was given a 97. It will never be eligible for federal grant funding for construction, and there's a risk of significant infrastructure failure, so the district has decided to close the school as of June 2025. Murray Middle School campus will house all of the 7th and 8th grade students beginning in fall of 2025, and that'll require an expansion of Murray's capacity. The district has initiated an improvement project implementing a new 93-space parking lot, two new one-story classroom buildings totaling 17,845 square feet, providing 9 new classrooms, a teacher's workroom, custodial closets, boys and girls bathrooms, mechanical and electrical storage rooms, and 1 faculty restroom. The district contracted with Placeworks to perform the assessment of the California Environmental Quality Act requirements. They have drafted a notice of exemption and an attachment to notice of exemption, which are included with this item. Prior to filing this notice of exemption, the board must adopt Resolution 07-2425. Adoption of this resolution will enable the district to file the notice of exemption with the appropriate agencies. There are no financial implications associated with this resolution, and it is recommended that the board adopt Resolution 07-2425 as presented.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions from board members? Any question, members of the community, staff?
I guess I
Go
do. So just to be clear, we paid a lot of money when we built Murray to address all the environmental impact issues and the crazy stuff that was in the ground, and we dealt with all that stuff in it. And we're basically building on top of what we've already cleared. Is that the basis for the exemption?
The basis for the exemption is that they have done the work, and we need to resolve that we're allowed to put something on this ground. So that's what we're resolving, yes.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions from board members? Questions from members of the public? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Brings us to item number 2, approval of an agreement with Colombo Construction Company Incorporated for the Murray Middle School Improvement Project. Mr. Morgan.
With the condition of Monroe Middle School and the necessary expansion of Murray, the construction will include the new 93-space parking lot, the new 2 classrooms mentioned before, including 2 new one-story building, including 9 classrooms, a teacher's workroom, etc. The district will be using a design bid build as the construction method of this project. The district received 2 bids on July 30th, 2024, and Colombo Construction was selected as the lowest responsive bidder. The contract is separated into 2 components. Design and DSA approval is one component, and guaranteed maximum price for construction is the other. The quote from Colombo Construction is, for the design DSA approval, $102,000. The guaranteed maximum construction price is $10,750,000. Funding will come from Fund 40 capital outlay, with the $102,000 for the design DSA approval committed, and the balance as funds become available from various resources. It is recommended that the board approve the agreement with Colombo Construction for the Murray Middle School Improvement Project as submitted.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Robert, go ahead.
So we have 102,000 that from Fund 40, and then the 10 million comes from where? I know that we have state reimbursement from Richmond, but do we know how much that will be, or is it still up in the air on that? Or do we,
Any dollar figures at this point are projections and not committed until we receive it. So we were just even this week filing paperwork for some of those. So as you know, it takes sometimes a few years. So we're looking at reimbursements from Richmond, and then there'll be eligibility for this. So there are multiple sources. Plus we get developer fees that all go into the same pot of money that could be available.
but we don't know if we're gonna be able to cover 10.7 million. We might have to take a loan out for that, or do we, how's that all work?
Yes, that is one of the considerations that the board discussed when we had the January 31st board workshop in making the plans for the Murray expansion. We may need to do some kind of a loan to get us through while we wait for the state reimbursements. So those are all part of the menu of opportunities that we have that we plan to bring back in November from any potential action. So right now we would, the agreement is written in such a way that it is as funding is available, so we would be approving the total scope of the project, but we would be actually allocating funding for that very first piece so we can keep moving forward while we continue to look at the menu of resources, which includes working with our consultants, the Kelly Long and Krista Long Associates, that help us get those reimbursements from the state for, that we're anticipating in the millions of dollars.
So when this project starts, which is a 15-month project, correct? It's supposedly, or how long is this going to take to get this stuff done at Murray when all these kiddos come over there?
The target is before we have to put all our 7th and 8th graders over there, so the
Right.
time frame is accurate, yes.
Yeah.
I'm missing the rest of the question. I see where our menu of options are, and the 102,000 is the first component.
Right.
And the construction, is that what you're asking?
Well, I guess my question is this is going to happen in a year?
We will have students there before the construction is finished.
Right. And so are we prepared? Obviously, we want these buildings for these kids.
We've done the analysis, and the actual growth and impact of the reimagined junior high is anticipated to be about 6 classrooms. And so in the fall, when we have the increased load, we may have 6 teachers traveling classes during their prep while we finish the construction. So the construction will handle more than, because we're building, as you saw, more than 6 classrooms. There'll be extra space, and we've factored all of that in. But it is quite, what the reality is as we looked at the master schedule and what we're expecting, there will be some traveling while we finish the construction.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Claire.
Thank you, Robert. Any other questions from board members? Questions from members of the public or staff? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. That brings us to business administration. We will temporarily adjourn the meeting of the Sierra Sands Unified School District Board of Education to convene the Current Schools Financing Authority Board of Directors meeting. The only item on that agenda is the approval of the minutes. If there are no corrections, they will stand as approved. And we will adjourn that meeting and then reconvene the meeting of the Sierra Sands Unified School District Board of Education and move to the consent calendar.
Move the entire consent calendar.
Second.
Consent calendar is moved in its entirety. Any questions or comments on any items on that calendar from the public? Not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? It is unanimous. Are there any recommended future agenda items? If not, we will adjourn the regular meeting of the Sierra Sands Unified School District Board of Education to reconvene our special session, executive session, and the next regular meeting of the Sierra Sands Board of Education will be October 17th. Thank you all for coming.